Welcome, everybody, to Pop It Like It's Hot. As always, we are brought to you by RIW Hobbies and Games in beautiful Livonia, Michigan. Come check them out sometime. We'd love to have you stop by. So this week, we're going to break down the recent challenge results. And then after that, we're going to delve deep into a topic near and dear to our hearts, which is brewing. Just kind of go through that. What does it mean to us? How our process is on some interesting brews, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm Dave, and I'm joined today by my other co-host.
This is Mike, and it's going to get a little unusual because the other guest is also
Mike McIntosh and Mike McMurray.
So there you go.
I think I'm just going to call it Mike Mac and then Mike, kind of like Big Mac or Magic Mike, I guess. We could throw that in there, but cool.
Sure. Cool. You guys coined me as that when we first started this cast, so I guess I'm stuck with that, so that's fine.
He's acting like he's not embracing it. He has a big sticker that he brings to like every Wednesday.
Oh yeah, I mean we could do some T-shirts too. You know.
Not to mention the boy shorts I wear every week, so that's weird.
Right, the ones with the snap down, so you can just rip them off when you go to play Pauper on Wednesday.
We're gonna need a photo.
PG.
Never mind. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say next.
Just playing into the Magic Mike theme, but I digress. Let's just jump right in. We've got challenge results here. So top 8 from top down. I guess the top 2 guys split, but they were both on Just Sky. First place goes to Condescend on more of the creature heavy version. So 17 creatures, 2 Dispel main deck, 2 Brainstorm, 2 Glinthawk, 1 Trinket Mage. Some notable inclusions in the sideboard. We had Navigator's Compass, which I haven't seen used before, but I believe that's the one from Dominaria comes into play, gains life, and I think you can make a land a base type until the end of turn. So
yeah, any type of your choice. It actually was ran in a lot of the ATOG lists, actually, when they first started kicking around, when they were going more into the shift ATOG.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems great with Glinthawk, bounce it, gain some life. It's kind of playing the combo role of you fetch it with Trinket Mage, it's a target for Glinthawk, gains life, just kind of similar to Lone Missionary, but so kind of just like a nice hedge there to bridge the gap for some of the opportunity costs to play Glinthawk. But another thing that stood out to me went with Nihil Spellbomb over Relic of Progenitus and COP Green in the sideboard. And I kind of like the 2 Brainstorm in the main deck and the 2 Dispel. Give you, I think, a good action in the mirror when you guys have a massive stack being fought over the Ephemerate Archaeomancer battle. So it's good to be nimble. Dispel's great there. So down to second place, we had Bilster 47, also on Jeskai, more of the creature light version. So 13 creatures, 2 of which are Thraben Inspector to help play your Prismatic Strands. So 2 Prismatic Strands in the main deck. 2 more in the sideboard, 1 Pulse Marasa in the main deck, and 1 Forest to help play said Pulse, as well as I believe it was a Serene Heart one of in the sideboard,
That's the one that
if I remember right.
So wait, how many Thraben did he have in there?
So
2.
Just 2 in the main
Drop
deck.
down, huh? Nice.
Yeah.
So he's changing it up. When we had him on, that he seemed like such a fan of Thraben. I'm surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder when we have him back on, we'll have to ask him his thought process there, because I don't understand why he would drop down.
Yeah, and looking at the 2 list, it's I kind of feel like this is where you see, this. I always tend to look at the creature package, but one is heavier creatures, one's lighter, one's on the Strands plan. So yeah, Bilster's on the Pulse Marasa, Prismatic Strands, also playing the Forest and using a green a little bit more. So I feel like you kind of see a divergent of more creatures, less creatures. Whether I think showing those 2 decks next to each other kind of gives you okay, here's the range of these 2 decks. One's able to be more aggressive if it needs to be. One's on the more controlling side, but yeah, it's a Jeskai world we're living in it. So, do you guys have any thoughts on, I guess, how the lists are comprised, or anything stand out to you guys?
Even at its most aggressive, it still looks like a control deck to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think it's leans into the control side of mid range. I actually agree with that. I think it's very interesting, like how these Jeskai lists keep evolving. Like they're still not a figured out list, right? Like they just keep moving drastically too. Not like just a card here and there. It just seems like there's not a figured out list yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's cards I prefer to play that maybe they're wrong, but like I love Seeker of the Way, I love Spell Stutter, but you see lists without either of them. It's a moving target. It's like getting your hair cut and you're kind of deking them the whole time. You're like, I can't cut your hair. What are you doing, you guys? So, Journey to Nowhere.
I kind of wonder if Seeker. Well, you don't see it in this challenge, but I kind of wonder if Seeker falling out of favor a little bit was the fact that there was that little uptick for just a challenge or two in black removal, and black removal, squares off pretty well against Seeker.
Okay, yeah, it could be. I guess I don't have a definitive answer for it. I tend to love it against the green decks, but we didn't see too many green decks at the top, so maybe it was like a correct call to shift away from that. I mean, I don't like getting too focused on one tournament result and drawing too many conclusions on it, but it could be, yeah.
I mean, you can go down that road too with this challenge. There is a complete and utter lack of Stompy.
Mm-hmm.
Which, awesome, first off. Can't stand that deck. And it's crazy to see. Like, I thought for sure we'd just continue to see at least a one of. And let me see. Do we even see it in the top 16?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a 9th place.
Okay.
Dissonance on 4 Riverbow.
Okay.
I guess 3 Quirion Rangers seems more standard now than at first. I kind of was shock and awe at that, but not as prevalent. But I mean, that's just the top end of this. I mean, when you look at 8th place down to what was it? 8th place down to 21st got 12 points. So one person snuck in the top 8 with 4 wins, and that same record down to 21st. So I tend to like to look at that, but when it's down to 21 lists, I'm like, oh, okay, let's. Some notables to me though are the 3rd place deck. I don't want to butcher the name, but Frusile.
Yeah.
Our podcast compatriot here. But I've seen this list before. It's basically the Boros Metalcraft deck. Pretty much, essentially, it's the mono white deck we've seen in Pauper for years now on the fringes. I would say the format with the 4 bone splitters, I would say, would make up what is the hallmark card of the deck type of thing. But you've got Glinthawk, 4 of Glinthawk, 4 Skyfisher, 4 Thraben Inspector, Court Homunculus. I always say Homunculus. Homunculus. 4 Ardent Recruit, and 12 burn spells and 18 lands. Just a real focused, 16 1-drop creatures, 12 burn spells, 8 artifact lands to help you play Glinthawk, and 10 snow lands to get a piece of that lovely Arkham's Astrolabe pie that everyone's eating up right now. So
I don't get the reasoning for Court Homunculus. Am I the only one that's like unimpressed with that? I mean, 1 mana for 2/2, but it just seems.
Yeah, he's an artifact. You play him with snow-covered plains, pick him up, bounce him with the Glinthawk. I would guess that's not great, but he does kind of bridge the gap of he's a 2/2 for 1.
Well, you're running like 4 Labes, 2 Prisms, 4 Inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got your Journey to Nowheres that might see some play with Core Skyfishers. I don't know about like picking them up. I don't know, like I guess it's the 1 mana 2/2. So
yeah, he does seem to be the. I mean, he's not the Ardent Recruit's obviously what you want if you've got Metalcraft turned on, but
right.
I mean, if you could play 8 of those, I guess just do that. But I've only played with this deck a little bit, and it felt fine. But I mean, obviously, it is kind of waffling in between, the most aggressive you could be, or being able to draw you cards like Glinthawk, Skyfisher, and Thraben do.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would agree. But I mean, I played red deck wins with the 2/2s with a drawback. I mean, his drawback is artifact in play, which is pretty easy to make happen. So just 2/2
Right.
for one, like,
I don't know.
beat you.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that it actually makes sense. I was a little bit quiet there because I wanted to pull up his full list, and
Mhm.
I think if you look at it from the perspective of always having Gale Blast online, and more or less for 2 mana, you can have a 4/2 because you're
Mhm.
looking for Bone Splitter in play as well.
True.
That doesn't
Yeah.
sound bad to me. Like, that sounds great. 4/2 for 2 mana sounds pretty good.
Well, you got the equip cost, but
Yeah, this list looks like excellent to me. It's very clean, a lot of 4-ofs. The sideboard's even very just like 3 Journey to Nowhere, 3 Lone Missionary, 3 Prismatic Strands, 2 Reaping the Graves, and 4 Red Elemental Blast. Just like a lot of high impact cards. And it's got the aggressive strategy. You can draw cards against a similar deck, but it's also got the 12 like premium burn spells to help kill the control decks and give you more than just combat. I'd love to see this deck kind of get more of a footing in the format and be something to deal with. This looks very clean. Maybe you could add here or there. I'd love to try this out and give it a whirl, but it just looks like a very nice, clean list to me. Love
I
it.
think
I don't disagree with that at all. It looks nice.
I like the 12 spells that go to face.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty important, and I noticed that like Boros in general has been kind of taking more of an aggressive approach, maybe because they can't go over the top of Jeskai, or I don't know.
Right? Yeah, it's kind of the lane you gotta play. You can't let them draw 6 cards and be like, all right, that's cool. Me too. It's like, no, you can't do that too. So moving on down, we got Tron by Hampus one. I'm probably gonna butcher every moto name on here, but we've got Stonehorn Tron, 1 compulsive research as another win condition. 4 ghostly flicker seems notable to me. I wish we had a Tron. Well, Mike McIntosh, you're a Tron
dabble.
guy. Yeah,
I
you're
dabble.
Tron. You're a Tron guy.
Yeah.
What stands out about this list to you? Like, let's see, 5 islands, 1 forest, 1 plains. I don't think the mana stands out. I like maybe a 4 ghostly flicker and 1 moments piece stand out. What do you think?
Well, I haven't really been keeping up with the new tech post late, but from what I can see, it looks kind of close into line with like what Halsall and Burb were doing. It's like
Okay.
kind of taking that middle ground.
Okay. Yeah, like it's good to see. For me, I like seeing Tron up there just to help kind of,
Yeah.
I always play in paper, and I feel like not having Tron as prevalent in online kind of separates the 2 formats. So for me, it's the more Tron pilots. Maybe I'll famous last words here, but I like seeing more Tron players playing the deck as opposed to less. I think it kind of balances out more like what we see in paper. But
It's really helpful for the spikes. More Tron players, more unexperienced pilots, easier wins.
right, yeah, I remember talking to Nick about it, and it was just like, I think he had 1K maybe 6 months ago, where he played the match like 3 times and just was like, oh, it was so easy, blah blah blah. I'm like, I would not want to be in that spot, just grinding out Tron mirrors in a tournament where your opponent's like, no, you gotta beat me. Like, I ain't scooping. It's like, oh boy, okay.
Those could, and that's why you run Ulamog's Crusher in your sideboard right there.
Oh yeah, I saw
just
that.
to be like, I don't really feel like thinking about this mirror too hard.
Right, just turn 4, drop a fatty, and blow up all their lands.
Yep.
Who doesn't love fatties and blown up lands? So down to
I
5th
do like
place, another
Ponzo, just
Boro.
putting out there.
Oh, bro, I'm a restore balance guy. Don't even tell me. Like, I want the whole thing. um, Methodical, friend of the show, 5th place. Whoop whoop. Seeker of the Way, Squadron Hawk, Brave Inspector, 4 Battle Screech, 4 Prismatic Strands. So kind of your
No, you
Boros
missed
bully
the big
deck.
one. 4 Seal of
What?
Fire main.
Yeah, yep.
Dude's a madman.
Right. He's out here. Yeah. I don't know if this is a big divergence from the list of this, but looks great. I'm sure he, picked his angle, played it well. I like the list.
One thing I'm noticing actually as you look through this, the Boros lists are like very redundant, tight like lists. They're not messing around. You can tell they have like one focus. It's kind of nice.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've loved when I've played these decks being on 4 Battle Screech and 4 Strands, and just like this is once I get to this stage of the game, like I'm coming in the air, and you're not damaging me. Like it was just like clearly, and the 4 Faithless Looting, you're just like feeling that. I saw Vermosian Rally on the sideboard, so if you control a planes, you may tap an untapped creature you control instead of paying its mana cost. So basically, 1 mana, or I'm sorry, no mana. Creatures you control get 1/1 until end of turn instant. So kind of that Mercadian Masochist alternate cost card. I don't know if we've seen this before, but that one kind of stood out, looked interesting to me. I know when I play against this deck, they play Lumithread Field. I'm just like, oh my god, it's so good. So that's that's all I got on that.
I like
Any
the
thoughts?
rally. I like the rally.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
free spells, man. Can't go wrong with free spells.
Yeah, like Faithless Looting, and then not really discarding the card. Kind of, you're like, okay, I see what you're doing here.
Or Days, or Gush.
Right.
Or Get Broke.
So sixth place is Lindoso 1 on. Let me see, Jeskai. Oh no, sorry. This is the Boros list. So
That's another Boros list. Yeah.
threw me. I saw the Muldrifter and it got me in my autopilot. No, so yeah, Boros with 1 Muldrifter. We've got Reaping the Graves main deck. Let me see. We've got 2 Prismatic Strands. Yeah, looks like I would venture to say stock. Other than that, I'd like 2 Faithless Looting. I've always kind of liked that card in the deck to get rid of the cards you don't need, let you see, and kind of increase your velocity in the deck. But yeah, people are playing Monarch again. Wow, who would have
This
thought?
list is blowing my mind. I'm not sure what's going. What is the Muldrifter in there for?
It's value.
Oh, yeah.
Just value.
Wait. No, there's no Ephemerate.
Mm-hmm. It's a flyer. You get it back with Reaping the Graves. It's blue, so when you strands for white, you can maybe block and kill a guy. I've always felt like strands is less valuable if everybody's on white creatures. So just having a non-white guy is cool. Yeah, that's all I could venture to guess on.
Man. It's funky. It's out there.
Yeah, it's a funky monkey for sure. 7th place, Caleb O on Affinity. I saw the Perilous Research in there, kind of a tool from the combo version of the deck. So other than that, I couldn't see much. Like, I don't know, Mike, you're Affinity guy. Does anything stand out about the sideboard on that?
This is pretty stock.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I nothing against the list, but yeah, you're right. The Perilous Research is not in every deck, but other than that, it's pretty stock. I don't see anything that stands out to me. Let me look. I'm looking a little deeper. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I don't see anything. I mean, it's on 1 fling, but you see that from time to time, so that's not that different. Yeah,
Okay.
looks normal.
And then rounding out the top 8, Noyan, butcher the name, 8th place on Jeskai. 16 creatures, 2 Seeker of the Way, 1 Trinket Mage. This one's featuring 3 Witching Well. So when it enters the battlefield, scry 2. For 4, you can pop it and draw 2. So helps you play the 4 Glinthawks that are in the main deck. Helps you cash it in later for cards. What do you guys think of Witching Well? You think this is a trend we'll see moving forward in more lists, or?
I like that card quite a bit actually. I've been trying to figure out what my cuts are to throw it in ATOG Shift. Actually, I think it's a card that I'd like to try in that for sure. Initially, I thought ATOG Shift when I first started playing it months ago was going to be a much faster deck than it is, and I find myself in the late game quite often. And it's not like the deck is hurting for draw, but setting up your draws early, turning on Metalcraft and having another artifact in play with Witching Well, and then having late game draw sounds pretty good to me. Like I kind of want to try this in ATOG Shift.
Okay.
I mean, that's your standard rate for a draw to at instant speed, pretty much.
Right. And
Like,
it's in especially in ATOG, if it doesn't go there, it's ATOG fodder, so that's fine too.
I think the card was a Courier's Capsule. I want to say from Shards of Alara, maybe. But it was like 1 blue and 1, and I think it was pop it for 2. Like 1 blue and a colorless to pop it. Yeah. So we have seen, I guess, cards similar, but at 1, I think that's gives you the most like speed and.
Courier's Capsule, I just looked it up. I think that's kind of a stretch as a comparison. 2 mana to drop, 2 mana to pop, and you don't get the scry or anything. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Yeah, it's the only thing I could think that's like on the draw card side of it. Like, I don't know. Yeah, 2 seems like, I mean, it's 100% more than 1. So,
right.
My favorite deck in the world that everybody dogs on, 10th place, Snow White. Black White Pestilence at 11th and 32nd. Mono Blue No Delver in 15th. ATOG Shift showed up in 18th place. And Sunken City made an appearance here. What do you guys think about Sunken City?
Well, I want to rewind back to the ATOG Shift list real quick now that I'm actually able to dive into it.
Okay.
So the list for any of our listeners, this is actually neat because he does have Witching Well in here. And the list is actually very, very different from what we've seen from ATOG Shift lists. We're running only 6 snow-covered islands, which there's a couple more snow-covered in the list that I've seen and on myself. They've dropped Gear Seeker 100%. They're up to 2 Navigator's Compass. So this is reflective of like the old list before Gear Seeker worked its way in and Astrolabe. So it even has Moment's Peace main board. This is a very cool list. Spokes, I believe is the name. Very, very cool list.
Okay.
Worth checking out, I guess, is my point. Like, this is very cool.
Yeah, I like that shift towards more of a pure combo deck, I would say, right? Like your combo piece being ATOG and Fling, right? I guess you could attack with it as well, but I'd like, Moment's Peace being a get you card where you have some counterplay against aggro where you kind of catch them and go and do your thing. But
the mana seems tough in it, but I mean, 18th isn't shabby. It's not like it's a bad place, so he did well with it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I'd be interested in sleeving this up actually.
Yes, kind of stands out the 6 snow-covered islands and the Astrolabes. Can that hurt you? Like, is that a real opportunity cost to play it at that point? Because usually you think of the artifact decks, they're all on so many artifact lands and they can't generally play the Astrolabe, which would be perfect otherwise, right? But maybe.
I think
it seems like a tension point with the list.
One of the things that that you're going to lean into is the idea of you have 10 blue sources, so you're hoping that Witching Well and Preordain will get you to your snow covered if you don't see it right away.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what's going on there.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like the shift towards a more combo deck. 4 Muddle the Mixture, like Nick Lamar's favorite card from when I was talking to him like a few weeks ago. He was trying to jam that and prior to the 1K. But
it does work in this deck from experience. Like I can tell you, it's very good in this deck.
Sure. Go get ATOG or go get Fling and get your opponent dead.
But yeah, it's not to dwell on an 18th place that long, but I just thought it was really neat. It's
Oh, no,
a
you're-
cool list, yeah.
You usually cast Muddle and ATOG shift as actual like counter spell, don't you? Like that's your most common usage.
I find myself actually countering more with Muddle than actually seeking out, but it's those games that go long. The games that go long happen way more than you'd think with this deck, and this allows you to go fetch. That's all you're really doing.
Okay. Yeah, see, I mean, you can go fetch your Moment's Peace if need be. You can go and fetch your Weather the Storm in the board, Weather the Storm, one of Standard Bear, 2 Serene Heart, and then the full play set of, the remaining 3 Moment's Peace are on the board too, so leaning into that more. Yeah, that's interesting. I like the Moment's Peace being added in. I don't know if he's the first to innovate that, but that looks... I like just the ATOGs and no Gear Seekers, and I like the Muddle the Mixture and the Moment's Peace. That all seems spicy meatball.
It's Astrolabe World, man.
Yeah, even the artifact decks get to play that.
My experience with playtesting with Mike actually while he's on ATOG was that Gear Seeker actually did a lot of work. I actually like that in that deck a lot. I feel like it kind of gets you to like lean into like you gonna like have a choice, like you can get beat over the head by a Gear Seeker or you got to worry about the ATOG. It's like 2 different axes that the deck's attacking you on. It really makes you like really have to like plan out your turns very carefully.
Okay, I think you just like big butts though. Could be.
Yeah.
All right, but like, all right. So Sunken City, what's the word on the street on Sunken City? All your blue guys get bigger. Attack you with my fairies. Play some ninjas. So the 15th place deck by Wrath of Chaos 182. So 4 Miscreant, 4 Fairy Seer, 3 Moonblade Shinobi, 4 Ninja the Deep Hours, 4 Phantasmal Bear, 2 Slither Blade.
Yeah, it's an unblockable.
Okay. 4 Spell Stutta Sprite. Okay, so the counter package is one counter spell, 1 Force Spike, 1 Spell Pierce, and Withdraw, which is kind of a return a creature if they can't pay 1, mounts 2 creatures. So I guess super get you. What do you guys think of mono blue fairies right now? Like,
Well, this
Seems
is
sweet.
this is kind of Caleb's list, right? Like, I think this is almost identical, if not.
Oh, Caleb
You
Dees,
know, yeah, I think this is the same list, and it looked really cool. I think he coined it as Blue Stompy, which I can see.
it's gotta feel great to turn 1 a Phantasmal Bear and then ninja it back to your hand and just beat with that guy. I like the fairy and ninja kind of how they play. I think that's really strong. I know I ran some super janky blue black fairies deck on our Wednesday, and it was just like, oh, this is super cool. Like, I was on 4 ninjas and 2 of the shinobis, and I was just like, it felt great. So I could definitely see, a deck that shifts more like 25 creatures. Like I was felt like I was pushing it at 21, and this one even leans harder into it with, Phantasmal Bear, Unblockable, Naga guy.
The counter suite is what kind of is weird to me. I don't understand why you even bother at 1/1 and 1, but
All right.
I haven't played it, so to me, you just run either like 2 counter spells and maybe 1 force spike. I don't see that. I've never found Spell Pierce to be worthwhile. I guess it just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Maybe just to make it difficult to play around counterspell. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you could have, maybe he was testing it out, or maybe just keeping your opponent off on their toes. Like, I don't know. There's one more counter spell on the board. I don't know if it could have been a hedge, just spreading it across, but Force Spike felt great for me, but I was
I like
running
the
4
Vapor
counterspell,
Snag
so
because you're gonna tie up so much mana with Sunken City. You know, the upkeep cost.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that had to warp the card choice on a lot of these are, you know, more, the so many 1-drops, only one counter spell. Like you said, if you're paying 2 mana every upkeep for Sunken City, how often do you get to 4 mana in this deck, right? So
Makes
Right.
me wonder if you should do the old mutagenic growth trick, which
okay,
more or less works kind of like a counter spell from my experience playing mono blue.
all right. Yeah, it's not like it's protecting a flip delver when you attack, but
No, but you want your
yeah,
ninja. Like in this particular thing, you definitely want your ninja to stay alive.
sure. Yeah, I think that definitely could be part of this. He's got 3 gut shot in the board, so he's definitely hip to the restrictions of Sunken City, but it seems like a really powerful card. I mean, you do have the pay 2, but if you're already set up, like a 2 mana Glorious Anthem is pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you could honestly just drop the second one.
They need
Right,
to give
right,
White
and
that.
what?
I think White should have that effect in Pauper. Like Thor's soldier deck that he was playing last night. Just stick
Okay.
like an anthem effect in that. But blue gets it. Of course.
This is Pauper we're talking about. Blue,
Yeah.
blue is where you want to be. Just put it out there.
As is tradition.
I mean, it does cost blue, so like,
Yeah.
you know, it's a
It's
real
not
cost,
zero
right?
cost.
No, I'm kidding.
Right, yeah.
0. This card is blue. All right. I'm willing to move on from the challenge unless you guys see anything that kind of jumped out to you. Shout out to
Yeah,
the 10th place Tron guy.
Yeah, we
Snow
went
White
long
Tron.
on challenges. It was kind of a fun challenge to go over.
Yeah, well, we're out here, so. All right, so that's challenge.
Want to touch on? There's a couple things in the league that were kind of cool. If you want to just touch on that real quick and then move to the main topic or whatever.
Okay, let me pull up the league results here.
Yeah, league was kind of neat. From what I'm seeing, while you pull that up, I know there was Esper mid range, more or less the Jeskai deck dropping red and slot black. There's a lot of Mystic Sanctuary stuff going on, and Mantle of Tides keeps showing up in the leagues. So I think it's worth just mentioning. There was a deck titled Chroma Pest in the league, which if you want to start there, I think that deck is worth talking about on here. I think that deck is very, very cool.
I'm still trying to find that.
Trying to find
results.
Sure. If you don't find it right
there
away,
it is.
I'll start on it. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I found it.
Yeah, so Chroma Pest. I guess I'll just dive into it. So
Yeah.
Chroma Pest is kind of neat. It's by OPP52030, and it's
Pretty good
doing
name.
the pestilence thing where I believe this is how the deck plays out. They're trying to grind you out with pestilence and offsetting the life with Weather the Storm. You guys have the list up. You're able to see it. Like that's what's going on, right? Kind of a neat list. The
Very
5-0.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Very straightforward.
Yeah, I like Pestilence, and you get Astrolabe, you're on Talisman, and you still get to do Monarchy and Skyfisher and Glinthawk, and yeah, I feel like I saw Saffron Olive play a list similar to this maybe 2 months back, but I think Pestilence is the best card in Pauper on power level. Just maybe Tortured Existence is another one I mentioned that's like just for a common, you're like, wow, this does a hell of a lot. Yeah, that looks like a real blast to play type of deck. Like
Yeah, I thought it was neat. I really did. So I wanted to make sure to like showcase that one.
4 relics in the sideboard. He's not messing around.
Yeah.
He had some guardians.
Messing around will get you got. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's got the full getchiness. So the 4th Weather the Storm. He's got Gorilla Shaman. Like you said, Mike, 4 relics. So he's out here. He knows what he wants to do. He's got 4 of the things that are going on. Yeah.
So if you get a chance, bring up that Esper mid-range one, and I'm kind of gonna showcase you a little bit, Dave, because I know you're all into this Esper. You've been trying it out.
Yeah.
Kind of want your take on it. Do you have the list up?
What's the name of the pilot?
ALICODENDROCHIT. Ali Codenrich. Rick?
Sound it out. Okay. Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
So you've been on the Esper thing. So what do you think of this list? Where we're going with this? I like Agony Warp. Not gonna lie, that's sweet.
Yeah. This looks similar. Yeah, Agony Warp is I like that because it kind of is like the artistic way to get somebody like, all right, I have things and you have things, but like instead of just murdering all the things you have, I'm gonna like tactfully do this to both of 2 different creatures. So
yeah, advantageous block.
All right.
Keeps your creature alive, kills
Snuff
theirs.
outs.
Yeah, that's you earning a 2
For
for
real.
1 with that card. Yeah. Yeah, 3 snuff outs, 1 exclude, so he's really about that life. 2 Archaeomancer, 2 Gurmag, 4 Skyfisher, 3 Moldrifter, 2 Seeker, and 4 Spellstutter Sprite. So this looks a lot like kind of what I played at the 1K. I think the main difference is more targeted removal, or I guess less removal in general. Only the 3 snuff outs and the 2 Agony Warps, where I was trying the Edicts out. So yeah, I like that. That felt like kind of one of the weaknesses of the deck I was running, was too reliant on the Edict effects and just that not being as effective as a targeted removal. But yeah, Snuff Out's great. You get to ephemerate your spell stutter to counter their spells. You get to snuff out their guy when they go to do the same type of thing. So
right, and they still have the Archaeomancer. Now, were you on Gurmag?
No.
So I think that's what stands out to this list, is the fact that you have the 2 Gurmag and the Forbidden Alchemy. So they're trying to power out one of those as well.
I like Evan Card's Justice. That was a card when I was brewing the deck. I was like, you know what? I think I want one of these, and then I didn't pull the trigger on it. And then after playing in the 1K, I was like, you know what? There were a ton of scenarios where that would have just mopped up the entire board and just would have leveraged me so far ahead. Okay. Yeah, I like it a lot. Do we have any other lists we want to kind of showcase from the recent league, or?
I'm scrolling through. Nothing's really jumping out at me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. Maybe in the show notes, if any of you guys listening want us to kind of shout out a particular deck, feel free to let us know. I'm sure there's a lot here to cover. So I guess for the sake of time, we're going to move on and talk about brewing. So
all right,
kind of just want to go maybe do like a round table of what we all do for brewing. But I mean, I know I've said in the past, brewing in Pauper feels a little tougher than, and I've said this before, but like there's no warp world effect. There's no like game winning like windmill slam this one effect. Like you could do it with a combo, but just in general, the cards being more grindy by nature, I feel like it's hard to brew in Pauper, but you definitely can. Like when I first started playing Pauper myself, I was trying to brew and I couldn't do it. I kept, having a way less of a performance in a tournament when I did brew. But after about a year and a half, finally getting more comfortable and realize what levers I can push and pull and how far I can, go down the rabbit hole into a brew. But yeah, so let's just start from the top. So what does brewing mean to you, Mike?
Oh, well, for me, it's like kind of just exploring the game and the cards that are available. Like just kind of just figuring out what makes like a successful deck tick. You know what I mean? Like just figuring out like almost reverse engineering, like, you know, just like not really pay attention to what the hell everyone else is like doing for their list, but trying to figure out like what kind of interactions you can find in the game yourself. It's like kind of like you said, a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for me, like, usually it'll be like a moment of inspiration type thing where you're, you know, maybe it's a new card that comes out, or maybe you discover one you didn't know existed before, and it kind of sparks like the creative process where you're like, oh, this card pairs with this card, and now let me look up that whole set of any similar effects, or and then it just kind of like I was saying, like down the rabbit hole, like how much synergy can I get? For me, like I'll just say, for example, this last Wednesday, I started brewing based off of the idea that I wanted to push the boundaries on us, like sideboarding. I was like, oh, what if I get real cute and like, you know, start off as one type of deck and then side in a bunch of cards and become like a way more control deck. So that kind of got me interested. You know, I could go to a tournament and play Jeskai, play the stock list from a week ago, and that's fine. But I feel like when you brew and you're successful with it, you get much more out of it. I I feel like it's using all the parts of the buffalo, right? It's like, you know, not only did I enjoy the tournament, but I enjoyed like the brewing process leading up to it, right? And then if you do good in the tournament too, and you're enjoying the deck and all the nuances you planned were like working how you thought they would, like it's more than just showing up and being like, all right, I got like the current deck or the deck from a week ago, and like I smash you, but like just it's more of an intimate, like you're more tied to the deck. I feel like when you brew it.
Yeah, it does have like kind of a personable feel to it. So it's like a little bit of pride actually in constructing a 75 that like even mildly functions. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. It's like you go into it and it's like, you know, I don't have to beat everybody's face in with this deck. Like if I go 2-2 and enjoy my time, like, hey, that's as far as I need to go. Like, and I'll have a great time. Like, so it's not. I mean, if I guess all you want to do is win, there still is room for brewing, right? Like, I feel like, especially like if you look at like standard, when there's like a big rotation and a new set comes out all at that same time, you know, that's like the best time, like to brew for standard. It's wide open. Like this format hasn't. You maybe have like old decks that you know of, like a couple that are untouched type of thing, but it's kind of the wild west for a couple of weeks of where's the format going to go, or what decks are going to pop up, and how are they going to evolve from week to week, and you know, you can really catch people off guard.
We had a little bit of that going on in the summer with even Modern and in Pauper, where no one knew where the hell anything was going meta-wise. Became kind of felt like the Wild West, like you said.
Right.
With the discovery of ephemerate, kind of
Right.
took over. But yeah, until ephemerate was found out.
Yeah.
It was just all the changes all at once. Kind of felt like it was happening very quickly.
I know I busted out my Teamer Delver list, you know.
Yeah.
Took that out for a spin.
You know.
No. Call it by its name.
The deck we call Thunder Thighs.
There you go.
Okay.
It's a Delver deck, but really it's a Thunderous Wrath deck.
Okay.
Just top decking Thunderous Wrath over and over again.
Which I want to revisit now that Mystic Sanctuary is a thing. You know what I mean?
You know you're in an interesting place when you are running for what's that, Reclaim? Yeah.
Yeah.
You run 4 of those, yeah?
Three.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Hey, it's not a good deck, but we were talking about going 2-2. That's what I go with it.
So, that Dave's reaction was probably all your opponent's reactions when you play them. Okay.
I mean, who doesn't love a good lightning axe to the dome over
right.
and over and over again?
That's right.
Well, you can go, preordain into, lightning axe, but then when you like pass or like end of turn reclaim off of like a lab or something like that, they didn't even know you're running green.
Yeah.
You get a very interesting. You probably get a really interesting reaction from them.
Well, something
Right.
that a card you guys may not know much about that really works well in the Thunderous Wrath decks for all you people that are brewing out there. There's a card called Portent. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Ice Age. And it works very similar to Ponder. But the trick is, much like the rest of that block, there's a lot of next upkeep drawing. And if you're not familiar with how Miracle works, if it's the first card you drew on that turn, you can flip it over and reveal it and pay a Miracle cost. So that's why Thunderous Wrath is so cool, because it's 1 red for 5 damage. Well, Portent allows you to set it on top and then draw it on their turn and trigger it. So it's pretty good.
It was pretty good. Would you say it's an important card for the deck, or is it just portent card?
You're going down the I'm glad we're close to time if you're gonna go down that hole.
Right. You could put me in the corner, but baby don't like it. Yeah. I was mentioning during the challenge, like the 10th place deck was I wouldn't say it's a brew, but it's a deck I feel like it's kind of off the beaten path. That the Snow White Tron deck, or some of the decks I've loved in the past, or like, have you guys seen like the Goblin Storm deck, or I know I brewed like a blue black fairies deck a couple days ago. I know then you guys want to gush over some of your favorite brews momentarily as we can kind of reminisce and
kind of wrap it up from there. But I mean, as far as brewing is concerned, when I first got into Pauper, maybe I want to say it was 3 years ago. Mike, the other one on this call, actually is the one that introduced me to Pauper. I brewed a lot. Like I was all over inside that format, just like trying things out. I've never been one to be super into metas and play the meta top decks. In fact, I think a lot of people share that idea of wanting to play the fringe decks and win with them, and so I'm a little too spiked to like go too janky when I go to a tournament, but I like to play the outside fringe decks. So with that mindset, I was brewing a lot, and I kept finding myself just coming right back to meta decks and then just doing tweaks, and that's kind of where I have fallen off of the brewing quite a bit. I don't consider myself a brewer. I just like tweaking and trying out cards. I'm really high on Confound, for example, right now. I'm trying to squeeze it into any deck that I can. So that's I'm more of a tinkerer at this point, I guess.
Okay.
But one of the decks that I really, really liked, and I actually want to try bringing it back with, what is the slipper from Throne? The one that gives haste?
Slipper?
Crystal Slipper, whatever it is.
Yep.
The Banishing Neck deck. I really want to try that again.
Okay.
I always wanted to try to make that deck work. If you're not familiar, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know what Banishing Neck is, you tap it and you can return an artifact to your hand. It's an instant that gives a creature that ability, and then you play 0 mana artifacts to untap. What is the Mirren Spy? And you just loop that way.
Yep.
And what the point is you have something on the board that will trigger damage or trigger something.
And it's a functional reprint.
Yep. So you can actually run it. You can run up to 8. I think most builds that have even tried it run 6.
Okay. Yeah,
that's kind of that's my pet deck. I really like that deck a lot. I just have never been able to make it work at a competitive level. I've messed around with it.
You're like, I want infinity golems, and then you're like, all right, go, and then attack them for infinity times 3.
I see. That's why I want to try the slipper, so you can do it on that turn. I'm all about that, doing it on 1 turn life.
I could see that being better than 2 turns type of thing.
Well, combo, that's generally what you're aiming for in combo, is to not have to untap to get your combo payoff.
Okay, it's that might be the thing I'm missing all along. So.
Well, I've been really high on FAMs lately. I actually hold in my hand quite often. I'll have nothing on the board and just try to win from hand only, and it's worked quite a few times.
It's lit, fam. Yeah, I think brewing's great as long as like if you want the whole experience, like I want to brew and I want to do good, like it's I think you can do that just kind of knowing and acknowledging what are the confines of the format, like what do I need to do to have a respectable game against these aggro decks, these control decks, and the Jeskai decks, et cetera, et cetera. Like it, doing your thing, but also knowing, all right, if I need to be doing my thing by turn 4, or aggro decks will run over me, or I need to have so much interaction against other decks to, you know. But I think as long as you acknowledge those confines of the format at the time of the meta, then I think Bruin's a great way to have a lot of fun at a tournament. Also, you know, like it whether you're a complete brewer or just a tweaker, or I think we're all fall somewhere in that spectrum on any given tournament or any preparation for a tournament leading up to it with how we choose what decks we're on. I think it all starts though from like a moment of like, oh, I have an idea, let me do this. I guess the scenario where you don't do any brewing at all and you just show up with a list, I think that's a pretty rare thing. I also think it's pretty rare to build it from the ground up with nothing, like just have a notepad and hypothesize, and I do that too. I think that's more rare though. I think those are the complete opposites of the spectrum, and I think we all kind of fall somewhere generally in the middle there, right? Like,
well, I think we're missing the opportunity here to really let Mike dive into his brew, which I'm totally cool with putting in the show notes. I want him to discuss that. I think that's why he's here, because you're saying that no one starts from scratch. I don't know. Has that deck that we're about to talk about existed before you launched it, Mike?
The only other version I've seen, like any mainstream, would have been any New Provinces version. He's no longer making videos anymore, but he had this old video where it's like Growth Spiral lands or something like that. But where my inspiration actually came from was from modern Amulet Titan, and going from there, just trying to capture kind of like the feel of playing prime time, and just kind of setting up this toolbox of lands to create game states where it's difficult for you to lose from. And from there, I just it made complete sense. You had Scout, and then went into like what works at great instant speed in the meta. Like obvious ones are like Bajuka Bog. Sajiri Steeps really showed up in the deck big time, like being able to blank people's removal spells, especially in the Jeskai matchups.
So let's just, I'm going to pause you just for a second. Kind of give the gist of what the deck is. We haven't actually touched on that.
Right,
what are you doing with the deck?
So it's kind of a toolbox deck in that you kind of switch your modes from matchup to matchup. Your general mode of operation is going to be, I need to stick either a Sakura Tribe Scout or a Llanowar Scout, which allow you to play lands at instant speed. But you have that one turn in which you don't get to use this instant speed. So you're really vulnerable there, where because then you can't like cast your Sajiri Steep from out of your hand to protect your creature. So we jam a couple Dispels and 4 of Crop Rotations to kind of act as like a counter to that. So if they bolt my Tribe Scouts, they will be able to be protected and untap. And then from there, you can set up very difficult board states using the Moonfolk Tribe cards. So I got 4 of Obroto Breezecaller, and right now my current iteration is at 4 Soratami Cloud Skaters. They allow you to tap 2 mana. For the Breezecaller, you tap 2 mana, untap a land, and return 1 back to your hand. And for Soratami, you tap 2 mana, draw a card, and discard a card, and return land to your hand. So we basically get our lands back by doing that over and over again, and kind of just basically set up a board state where our creatures are too difficult for the opponent to interact with, oftentimes requiring 3 removal spells to even take care of 1 creature. From there, we're just trying to beat in using adventuring gears, 4 of, and step links, making our creatures either unblockable or flying over the air with suited up adventuring gear. I think that's basically the main function of the deck.
I can dig it.
Yeah, I
You brought
played
it. You
against
brought
you
it
one
to
time.
yeah. You go ahead. Sorry.
I remember playing against you. It was like every card was new, and I'm like, and I feel like I know a lot of the format too. Like either I played with it back in the day type of thing, but it was just like, what is going on? Like I did not feel like I knew anything playing against that deck, which is great advantage to have, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's actually like a common thing that I noticed when playing Modern Titan, and I watch a whole lot of my favorite content producer. I gotta give him a shout out for FPAW Lulz MTG. So it's spelled FPAWLUSZ MTG. Check out like his Twitch or YouTube channel. He's pretty well known for making content on Amulet Titan in Modern, and what you'll see almost like every video of his, like, opponents are just misplaying against him left, right, and center, and it's because it's such a difficult deck to discern their lines of play from. You can even know the cards, but it's very, like, the pilot themselves, like when I'm piloting it, I'm seeing several different lines and like many hidden lines as well, so it's like very difficult for your opponent to climb into that and try to figure out how they should be playing around you.
okay. Yeah, it's great. It's a great spot to be in when you know what they're playing, and you know like their whole 75, and you know they don't know anything you're doing. Like you're like, oh, like you can guess the next card they're gonna play, and like they are having a hard time remembering all the interactions you have, and couldn't even begin to think in their head like what could they possibly go and get with this tutor. Like who knows? Like, well, let's wait and find out. Like, am I dead? Like type of things happen. So cool. Yeah, it's a very interesting deck. I thought you guys were gonna talk about walls too. I know I've seen
Oh,
you, Mike, on all types of you know. We have some brewers at our store, but I feel like you go into the rabbit hole and come out with some stuff, like
yeah, I think Thor, which we were supposed to have on, unfortunately he had some other circumstances. He also like produces a lot of really great stuff. We kind of like riff off each other pretty heavily in the store.
okay, yeah. I would say I don't go so deep. Like I'll kind of steer more towards, all right, well, I at least want to like do this good, or I feel like maybe I can't go too deep down into the brew. So like I guess I've brewed more in Modern, but it's still maybe not like a known quantity per se, but some of it's known. So I guess on the spectrum, I'm more middle than you guys are on that, which I respect. Like I brew too, but I can tell like you guys are like a few levels ahead on like the Jedi brewing master like levels. Like I may be like Goku, but you're like Super Saiyan Goku in it. So, okay. Yeah, I wanted to bring up how, I guess, like a topic you had was, the inspiration came from, I wanted to do what this modern deck essentially does and bring it over. Because I see people like, they'll try and play Curd Ape and Wild Mikado, and they're like, I want to play Zoo from Extended from 10 years ago. Like, I can see there's Chain Lightning, there's Lightning Bolt, there's Curd Ape, there's Wild Mikado. Like, I want this deck in Pauper. Like, or I know I've done it with like Legacy. I'll be like, all right, Legacy Grixis Delver. Like, I want that deck over in Pauper. Like, I don't know if you guys can think of any other decks like that where you're basically, I know Pauper Burn is so close to Legacy Burn.
Yeah.
But
The deck that sticks out to me is Death Shadow was or in Pauper UBX was inspired by Death Shadow if I'm remembering correctly when that all started going on.
yeah, that definitely I played the deck back then and it was like, man, if you look at the list, like this is real close. And yeah, definitely. All right. I'm just trying to.
Mono Black feels like Jund as well, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know if it's modeled after, but it's definitely like if you have a Jund player coming over from Modern, that's the deck I recommend to them, Mono Black.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've drawn a comparison between Modern Jund and Jeskai, like the current Jeskai. I don't know if that's necessarily fair because Jeskai draws so many cards that maybe it's just separate from I guess, a mid-range deck like a Jeskai or like Jund is. So
Yeah. Like Jund likes a top deck war kind of situation where I feel like Jeskai is just like raw card advantage, which would be more like some kind of value town kind of situation going on there.
Right. Jund is relying on top deck. That's their whole game plan, right? At least in Modern, they want to strip you of resources and then they can just, top deck better than you.
Well, I guess the way Mono Black's going right now, though, they're kind of card advantage based now. So it's kind of moving away from that.
But we're kind of like running right into time.
All right.
So we touched on your land deck. I'm going to throw that in the show notes. If you could toss me that Twitch channel of the Amulet Titan guy, I might as well give him a little love.
Yeah.
So we'll have that in the show notes as well. Do you have any parting words,
Awesome.
Dave?
That's it. I'm cashed out. I got to get ready for this fantasy basketball draft here. So hopefully I don't get stomped, but I anticipate I will. But I'm going to do some studying for that and some semblance of some fun homework on that. But shout out to RIW Hobbies. Shout out to Blue Black Fairies. That's the next best deck we all never heard about. So watch out. But no, that's all I got. It was good stuff, gentlemen.
All right, thanks for listening, guys, and see you next week.
You guys should play lands.
Pauper